Sometimes you don't realize the value of silence until it's the only voice left. My friends, let me tell you something that might shake you a little. People don't start missing the person they took for granted when you're still there, giving, chasing, proving. No, they start missing you the very moment your presence fades into absence. That's the truth nobody wants to admit. And it's not because they stopped loving you, it's because human nature is selfish. We don't treasure what we think will always be there. Folks, that's the lie we've been told, that love alone makes someone value you. But the reality is, it's often your withdrawal, your silence, your refusal to keep pouring into someone who only takes, that makes them feel your worth the loudest. Before we go deeper, pause right here. If you're someone who's tired of being taken for granted, if you've ever sat there wondering when they'll finally realize your value, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel, because here we tell the hard truths. No sugarcoating, no fairy tales, just raw wisdom that will change how you see yourself and how you carry yourself. Now, hey folks, imagine this. You're like the sun, always rising, always shining, always pouring warmth into someone's life. At first, they're grateful, they enjoy it, they soak it in, but then it becomes routine. They stop noticing the beauty of the sunrise. They stop appreciating the light because it's always there. Until one day, it's gone. The sky is grey, the warmth is missing, and suddenly they realize just how much that light mattered. That's what happens when someone takes you for granted. They don't see your value when you're always shining. They see it when your light disappears. And here's where the lie gets exposed. Society tells us, if you love them, keep proving it, keep showing up, keep forgiving, keep fighting. But that's the fastest way to train someone to overlook you. Folks, persistence in the wrong place doesn't make you noble, it makes you invisible. Think about it. If you kept pouring water into a cup that had holes in it, would the cup ever stay full? No. You'd just keep draining yourself until you were empty. And yet, that's what so many people do in relationships. They keep giving, hoping one day the other person will finally see their value. But here's the wake-up call. They don't see it until you stop giving. Let me tell you something raw. A person can love you and still take you for granted. They can laugh with you, kiss you, even say, "I love you," and still not fully value what you bring to their life. And it's not because they're evil, it's because we humans are wired to underestimate what feels guaranteed. We mistake consistency for weakness. We mistake patience for desperation. We think someone will always be there until they're not. And this is where the real shift happens, my friends. The moment you stop orbiting around them, the moment your name stops popping up on their phone, the moment your energy pulls back, that's when the silence gets loud. Not for you, for them. That's when they start replaying memories, scrolling your pictures, asking themselves questions they never thought they would. Did I push too far? Did I lose them? Are they really done this time? And those thoughts spiral because deep down, they never expected you to stop showing up. They thought you'd always be there. But the beauty of Stoicism, the power in detachment, is this. You don't pull back to punish them. You pull back to protect yourself. You stop giving not because you want to play games, but because you finally see your own value. And when you live like that, when you hold yourself with quiet confidence, when you choose peace over chasing, that's when they start missing you. That's when regret hits. And that's when you realize the power wasn't in convincing them of your worth. It was in convincing yourself first. So, my friends, as we walk through this journey together, remember this truth. They don't miss you because you begged. They don't miss you because you chased. They miss you because you walked away in silence, with dignity and with strength. That's what haunts them. That's what makes them look back. And that's what makes you unforgettable. Write this in the comments right now. I choose detachment. Let the world know, let yourself know that you're no longer chasing what doesn't value you. And if you're ready for more truths like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because what comes next will open your eyes even more. Affirmation: I choose detachment. Number 1. When presence turns into absence. Silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. My friends, let me hit you with something sharp. They don't start missing you when you're right there in front of them. They don't start missing you when you're calling, texting, proving, and chasing. They start missing you the day your presence turns into absence. That's the switch. That's the sting. That's the moment the silence begins echoing inside them, louder than your words ever could. Think about it. Imagine walking into a room where a fan has been humming all day long. You don't notice the sound while it's running. It's background noise, familiar, expected. But the moment it stops, the silence feels almost unbearable. Your mind suddenly realizes something is missing, something it took for granted. That's how they feel when your energy pulls back, when your texts stop lighting up their phone, when your name doesn't appear in their notifications anymore. What was once ordinary becomes noticeable only in absence, and that's when the questions creep in. They start asking themselves, why haven't I heard from them? Did I do something wrong? Are they done with me? Have they found someone else? That's the first ripple of fear. Because people often assume they've got all the time in the world. They think your consistency is endless, that your patience is permanent, that no matter how they behave, you'll always show up. Folks, let's break the lie right here. Consistency without boundaries is not love, it's permission. When you keep giving without pause, you're teaching them that you will always be there, no matter how lightly they treat you. Now let's get real. Why do they think this way? Why do they believe your presence is endless? Because human nature confuses availability with permanence. If you're always around, if you're always one call away, they stop valuing the access. They assume your energy costs nothing, when in reality, it's costing you everything. And when you finally take that energy back, the illusion shatters. Suddenly they realize, wait, maybe this wasn't permanent. Maybe I should have valued it more. And here's the hard truth. When they first notice your absence, it doesn't hit as sadness. It hits as confusion. They check their phone more often. They scroll through feeds. They replay conversations in their head. They think, did I push too hard? Did I ignore them too long? Did I cross a line? That's the spiral starting. And in that spiral, the ego battles with the heart. Their ego says, stay cool, don't show weakness, they'll come back. But their heart whispers, what if they don't? And slowly, the heart begins to win. Folks, understand this. Silence isn't passive. It's not nothing. It's presence in a different form. It's a mirror. When you stop reaching out, you're not just giving them space, you're giving them reflection. They're forced to face their own choices without the safety net of your reassurance. That's why it stings so deeply. Your silence says what your words never could. I will not beg to be valued. Now, is it easy for them to process this? No. It feels like losing control. It feels like rejection. It feels like punishment, even if all you're doing is living your life quietly. That's why the silence grows so heavy, because they start to realize they weren't just missing your attention. They were missing the comfort of knowing you'd always be there. That comfort has been ripped away, and now they have to sit with their own emptiness. And here's where fear kicks in. Fear of replacement. Fear that you've finally recognized your worth, and someone else will too. Fear that while they were busy taking you for granted, you were busy evolving into someone they can't reach anymore. That's when missing you stops being an option and starts becoming an obsession. They refresh your feed, They check mutual connections. They replay your last conversation, not because they're over you, but because they're terrified that you might be over them. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine holding a book you never read. You place it on the shelf, assuming it will always be there. Dust gathers, you pass by it every day without noticing. But one morning, you reach for it, and it's gone. Someone else has it now. Suddenly, the book you ignored feels priceless. That's the psychology of being taken for granted. They don't notice your value when they have you. They notice it when your absence forces them to confront what they lost. But here's the truth I need you to grasp, my friends. Their missing you doesn't mean you owe them a return. Just because regret blooms in their chest doesn't mean you water it. You see, the power of silence isn't about making them miss you, it's about making you see yourself. Because when you stop chasing, when you stop overgiving, when you stop explaining your worth, you finally discover that the one person who needed to notice your value was you. And that is the paradox of detachment. The moment you no longer need them to recognize your worth is the exact moment they finally start to. They miss you not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying at all. They miss you not because you bent over backwards, but because you stood tall. They miss you because you took back your energy and gave it to the only person who truly deserved it all along, yourself. Affirmation: I will not beg. Write it in the comments. Show yourself, show the world around you, and stay with me because the next truth will cut even deeper. Number 2, the echo of small things. We rarely remember the price of gifts, but we always remember how someone made us feel. My friends, let me tell you a truth that people often learn too late. When they start missing the one they took for granted, it isn't the grand gestures that haunt them. It's not the expensive dinners, the trips, or the flowers that once felt picture-worthy. No, it's the small, ordinary things, the overlooked details that echo the loudest in their absence. The things that didn't seem like much at the time, but once gone, create an emptiness that can't be filled by anyone else. Think about it. A simple "good morning" text might have felt routine, predictable, maybe even annoying to them in the moment. They might have rolled their eyes, acted unimpressed, or brushed it off as just something you always did. But the day it stops, that silence at 8 a.m. feels heavy. They wake up, check their phone, scroll through the notifications, and realize the one name that always used to be there isn't. That's when absence becomes louder than presence. And here's the lie we have to break. People assume they'll miss the fireworks, the big show, the dramatic declarations. But human psychology doesn't work that way. It attaches itself to repetition, to habits, to consistency. The small things done consistently carry more emotional weight than the big things done occasionally. When those vanish, the loss doesn't feel cinematic. It feels personal. It feels like something deep in their everyday rhythm has gone missing. Imagine this. A musician plays a powerful concert and the crowd applauds. That memory lingers for a night. But the musician who practices the same tune every morning in your neighborhood, when they stop, you notice it for the rest of your life. That's the difference. The everyday presence is what imprints on the soul, and when you withdraw it, that's when they realize just how much those little things mattered. They remember the way you asked if they got home safe. They remember how you noticed when they were tired, even when they swore they were fine. They remember how you'd grab their favorite snack without them asking, or how you'd recall a small detail they mentioned in passing weeks before. At the time, they probably shrugged it off, maybe even acted entitled. But once gone, those memories keep echoing like footsteps in an empty hallway. Now, let's be raw here. Why didn't they appreciate it when it was happening? Because they got used to it. Comfort is a double-edged sword. On one side, it creates safety. On the other, it breeds complacency. When you show up consistently, when you give selflessly, they stop seeing it as a choice. You're teaching them it's guaranteed, and guaranteed things rarely get valued. Folks, let's break the lie. Being the nice one who always gives, always shows up, doesn't make them treasure you. It makes them take you for granted. And here's where regret begins to poison them later. They go out into the world, meet new people, talk to others, maybe even try to replace you. But guess what? The world doesn't hand out emotional intelligence on every corner. They start noticing how rare you were. They notice how shallow conversations feel compared to the way you used to listen. They notice how other people don't pay attention, don't remember, don't care in the small, intimate ways you did. Picture this. They're at dinner with someone new. The conversation is fine, the food is fine, but it feels empty. Why? Because the person across from them doesn't catch the subtle shift in their tone, doesn't ask, "You okay?" doesn't see through the fake smile. And suddenly, a flash of memory hits. You would have noticed. You always did. And just like that, a small thing they dismissed when they had you becomes a heavy ache in your absence. It's ironic, isn't it? The very things they once ignored are the very things they crave later. The things that made them feel safe, chosen, seen. At the time, they confused your patience for lack of options, your attentiveness for weakness, your kindness for desperation. But in the silence, when no one else replicates what you did so effortlessly, they realize it wasn't weakness at all. It was strength, a rare strength, the kind they can't find just anywhere. And then the comparison begins. Every new person they meet gets silently measured against you. They won't admit it out loud, but deep inside, they're stacking these strangers against the memory of you. And almost every time, the new people fall short. Because here's the truth. Once someone has experienced genuine care, it's almost impossible to go back to shallow substitutes. But here's where it gets difficult, for them and for you. They'll start remembering, but the timeline of regret doesn't sync with the timeline of healing. By the time they finally start missing the little things, chances are you've already started pulling your energy back. You've grown quieter, stronger, detached. And that creates a brutal paradox. They start craving the version of you that no longer exists because you've evolved past needing their validation. Let me paint it with another metaphor. Imagine someone had a candle burning in their room every night. They barely noticed it, sometimes even got annoyed by the smoke. But one night, the candle is gone. Now the room is cold, dark, and empty. They crave the warmth, but when they finally go looking, the candle has melted, reshaped into something entirely new. They can't light it again because it no longer exists in the form they remember. That's what happens when you detach. They start missing not just you, but the version of you they could control, and that version is gone forever. Now let's break another lie. They're missing you doesn't mean they're ready to value you. Missing is not the same as deserving. They may cry, they may spiral, they may compare every new person to you, but that doesn't mean they've grown enough to treat you right if given another chance. That's why Stoicism is so powerful here. Because the Stoic doesn't chase being missed. The Stoic knows being missed is inevitable. Why? Because true value always echoes louder in absence. So, my friends, let me turn the focus back to you. Don't measure your worth by whether they come back. Don't measure your healing by whether they finally regret. Measure it by whether you finally saw yourself. By whether you finally realized you were giving extraordinary effort to someone who mistook it for ordinary. By whether you learned that your energy is precious, your presence is rare, and your little things are not little. They're everything. And if they start missing you, that's not your responsibility. That's their mirror. That's their consequence. That's their silent classroom where the lessons you taught them will replay again and again without your presence. Write this in the comments right now. I am the rare one. Show yourself. Show the world around you. Let them know that you no longer undervalue the small things you give. Because those small things are the very reasons they will miss you, and the very reasons you must never forget your own worth. Stay with me, because what comes next digs even deeper into their inner spiral. Number 3. The pretend cool, the inner spiral. The loudest lies are often the ones we tell ourselves. My friends, let's strip back another layer of truth. When they start missing the one they took for granted, they won't admit it right away. No, on the surface they'll play it cool. They'll smile for the camera, post living my best life stories, laugh with friends, maybe even entertain someone new. They'll show the world that they're unbothered, unaffected, untouchable. But inside, they're spiraling, quietly, secretly, in ways no filter or caption can hide. Here's what most people don't understand. Detachment doesn't just remove your presence, it removes their control. And when control slips away, ego rushes in to cover the panic. Ego whispers, don't let them see you care, don't let them know you miss them, don't show weakness. So they put on a mask, they post louder, they laugh harder, they pretend deeper, but beneath all of it, the silence you left behind is gnawing at them. Let's break the lie. They want you to believe they've moved on instantly. They want you to believe you didn't matter. But folks, if you truly didn't matter, they wouldn't need the show. Performance only exists when there's an audience. And their performance, those I'm fine signals blasted across social media, isn't for their friends. It's for you. It's their way of asking without asking, are you still watching? Do you still care? Imagine it like this, a duck gliding smoothly across the water, calm, graceful, effortless. But what you don't see are the frantic little legs paddling like crazy beneath the surface, just to keep that image afloat. That's them. On the outside, calm. On the inside, restless. The image says, I'm good, but the reality screams, I'm losing control. And here's the irony. They spiral not because you're present, but because you're absent. They're used to your pursuit, your reassurance, your chasing. Without it, their ego feels abandoned, their pride feels wounded. That's when the doubts creep in. Did I push too far? Did I misread their loyalty? Are they really gone this time? At first, they'll try to laugh it off, but silence doesn't let go easily. Silence repeats itself every day, every night, every time they check their phone and see no message from you. Folks, understand this. The spiral doesn't look like screaming or crying at first. It looks like distraction. They'll pile their schedule, surround themselves with noise, chase validation from others, because anything is better than facing the emptiness you left behind. But here's the thing about distraction. It only delays. It doesn't heal. It doesn't erase. And when the noise dies down, when the room gets quiet, when the screen goes black, that's when the spiral becomes unavoidable. They start replaying old conversations. They scroll back through old photos. They wonder if you're thinking of them, if you're watching, if you're already with someone else. The ego says, no, they'll come back. They always do. But the heart asks, what if they don't this time? And that question, my friends, is the one that keeps them up at night. Now, why do they play it cool so hard? Because admitting regret feels like losing power. People, especially the ones who once dismissed your worth, will cling to the illusion of control even when it's slipping through their fingers. Pride says, don't text them, don't reach out. They should be the one crawling back. But emotion says, what if they never do? And in that tug of war, they choose the mask. They'll let the world see confidence, but inside they're drowning in what-ifs. Let me give you another metaphor. Imagine a house with cracks in the walls. Instead of fixing the foundation, they hang pretty paintings over the cracks. To visitors, the walls look perfect. But at night, when they're alone, the cracks are still there, spreading, widening. That's what their cool act is. Paint over damage and your silence. That's the crack growing bigger every day. But here's what you need to know, my friends. Their spiral isn't your responsibility. Just because they miss you doesn't mean you rush back. Just because they regret doesn't mean you rescue them. Their inner storm is the price of underestimating your value, and it's in that storm that the lesson finally lands. Consistency doesn't mean permanence, patience doesn't mean desperation, and silence doesn't mean weakness. And the longer you hold your silence, the deeper their spiral runs, because now they don't know where they stand. Before, they could predict you. You'd always text back, you'd always forgive, you'd always chase. But when you step back with quiet strength, their certainty collapses. And people fear nothing more than uncertainty, especially when it comes from the one they thought they could control. Picture this. A gambler at a slot machine. They keep pulling the lever, expecting the same pattern. But suddenly, the machine stops working. No matter how many times they pull, nothing comes out. Panic sets in. Not because they valued the machine, but because they thought it was guaranteed. That's exactly how they feel when you stop showing up. The panic isn't just about missing you, it's about losing the control they once had over your presence. And here's the sweetest paradox. The more they pretend to be over you, the more they prove they're not. Because indifference doesn't post, doesn't check, doesn't perform. Indifference is quiet, but spiraling. Spiraling is loud, even when they think it's hidden. It leaks through the cracks, in their posts, in their late-night scrolling, in the sudden interest in your life they swore they didn't care about. That's the spiral they can't escape. So let me ask you, my friends, how many times have you been fooled by the mask? How many times have you believed their performance, thought they didn't care, when behind the mask they were unraveling? This is why Stoicism matters, because the Stoic doesn't chase masks. The Stoic knows truth reveals itself in silence, and when someone spirals behind their cool act, it's not your job to save them, it's their job to face themselves. And that's the beauty of detachment. You stop giving them reassurance, and they start confronting reality. You stop chasing, and they start chasing themselves. You stop proving your value, and they finally see it on their own, not in the moment of your presence, but in the echo of your absence. So remember this truth. When they play it cool, don't be fooled. Behind the calm is chaos. Behind the laughter is longing. Behind the silence is their storm. And your silence? That's the mirror forcing them to see what they lost. Write this in the comments right now. I am unshaken. Let the world know, let yourself know, that you will not be deceived by appearances. You will not chase their mask. You will hold your silence, your strength, your peace. Because while they're spiraling, you're rising. And stay with me, because the next section digs into the war between their ego and their emotions, and why, eventually, emotion always wins. Number 4. Ego versus emotion, the inner war. Pride is loud, but regret whispers until it breaks you. My friends, let me be honest with you. When they finally start missing the one they took for granted, it doesn't hit them like a calm realization. It hits like a war, a brutal, unrelenting battle between their ego and their emotions. One part of them screams, "Don't reach out, don't show weakness, don't let them see you care." And the other part aches in silence, whispering, "You pushed away someone who mattered, and now they might be gone for good." It's a war fought behind closed doors. On the outside, they might smile, laugh, act unbothered. But inside, it's a battlefield. Their ego is a general, armed with pride and stubbornness, trying to hold the line. Their emotion is the soldier, wounded but relentless, trying to break through. And the truth is, no matter how long pride holds out, emotion always finds a way to win. Why? Because emotions don't vanish. They linger. They bleed into memories, into quiet moments, into the late-night silence where the mask finally falls. Ego thrives in public. Ego loves an audience. But when the lights go out, when the room is dark, when no one is around to applaud their performance, that's when emotion takes the stage. And emotion doesn't care about pride. Emotion doesn't care about appearances. Emotion only knows the truth. They miss you. Let's break the lie society sells them. They're told that whoever cares less wins. That showing emotion is weakness. That detachment means power. So when they lose someone they took for granted, their ego clings to that lie. Don't text, don't call, don't admit you miss them. They should have fought harder. They think holding back equals strength. But here's the brutal reality, folks. Strength isn't denying your feelings. Strength is facing them, and most people don't. They hide behind ego until regret crushes them. Think of it like a dam holding back water. The dam is their pride, tall and unshakable. The water is their emotion, swelling behind it. At first, the dam holds strong, but water doesn't stop. It keeps rising, pressing harder, finding cracks. Days pass, nights grow heavy, silence stretches longer, and soon the dam can't contain it anymore. The cracks spread. The water bursts through. That's when the flood of emotion overpowers the ego, and they can no longer pretend they don't miss you. And here's where the spiral deepens. They'll catch themselves doing things their ego despises, checking your profile late at night, replaying old conversations, watching your stories without interacting, typing messages and deleting them before hitting send. Their pride says, no, stay strong, but emotion says, what if it's too late? That conflict is torture, and it only grows worse the longer your silence holds steady. Because silence, my friends, is fuel to the war inside them. Every day you don't reach out, their ego feels threatened, but their emotion feels starved. The ego says, if they cared, they'd reach out by now. The emotion says, maybe they stopped because of me. Maybe I pushed too far. And that tension eats at them from the inside. They wanted you to keep fighting. They expected you to beg. They assumed you'd hold on no matter what. But when you don't, their pride doesn't feel like strength anymore. It feels like a prison locking them away from what they secretly want. And here's the bitter truth. Ego can't win forever, because life always delivers reminders. A song comes on that reminds them of you. A place they once went with you pops into their feed. A memory surfaces uninvited, and each reminder chips away at the armor. Slowly, regret creeps in. Regret that they confused your patience with weakness. Regret that they mistook your presence for permanence. Regret that they pushed away someone who wasn't replaceable after all. Folks, let me give you a metaphor. Imagine standing in a boxing ring, throwing punches at a punching bag. You feel strong, in control, untouchable. But then one day, the bag is removed. You throw a punch and hit nothing but air. The control you thought you had vanishes. That's exactly what happens when you pull away. Their ego was used to punching against your presence, your forgiveness, your consistency. But when the bag is gone, when your silence leaves them swinging at air, they realize the fight isn't against you anymore. It's against themselves. And here's what makes it worse. They see you glowing. They see you leveling up, living your life without bitterness, carrying yourself with peace. And that image doesn't just hurt their heart, it crushes their ego. Because now they know the one they took for granted isn't waiting, isn't chasing, isn't holding on. You're rising while they're stuck wrestling between pride and pain. That realization? It's devastating. But here's what you must remember. Their war is not your responsibility to end. Too many people make the mistake of breaking silence to soothe the other person's ego. Don't. Their lesson is in the struggle. Their growth is in the discomfort. If you rescue them from that inner battle, they never learn the value of what they lost. Stoicism teaches us, control what is yours, release what is not. Their ego, their emotions, that's their battlefield, not yours. So, my friends, here's the truth you need to hold on to. They will always spiral between ego and emotion when they lose someone of value. The ego will stall, but the emotion will break through. And when it does, regret follows close behind. But by then, you're no longer chasing. You're no longer begging. You're no longer the same person they underestimated. You've risen into someone stronger, calmer, untouchable. And that version of you, that's the one their pride will never admit they miss, but their heart will never forget. Affirmation: I rise above. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you will not be dragged into someone else's war. You will not be fooled by their mask of pride. You stand firm in silence, because silence is strength. And stay with me, because the next truth will sting even harder. We'll step into the moment they see you shining without them, and why that's the cut that makes them miss you the most. Number 5. When they see you glow without them. Nothing burns deeper than watching the person you dismissed become everything you can't have. My friends, let me tell you something raw. They don't always miss you right away. Not in the beginning. At first, they feel powerful. They convince themselves they made the right choice, that they've still got the upper hand, that you'll always linger in the background waiting. But then something happens, something that flips their confidence into panic. They see you glow without them, and nothing cuts sharper than that. At first, they expect silence to mean suffering. They assume you're curled up at night scrolling their feed, wishing, regretting, aching. They think pulling away makes them stronger, makes them untouchable. But when they look again, expecting to see you broken, they see something else. They see you smiling. They see you lighter. They see you moving forward, leveling up, rising into a version of yourself they never imagined. That, my friends, is the moment the ground beneath their ego starts to crack. Here's the lie that gets broken. They thought your world revolved around them. They mistook your love for weakness, your patience for dependence, your presence for permanence. They believed that if they left, you'd collapse. But Stoicism teaches us, the man who needs nothing fears nothing. And when they see that truth in you, when they see you thriving, not in spite of them, but without them, they realize something devastating. They weren't your foundation. They were only a chapter. And the story kept going without them. Think about it like this. Imagine someone owns a piece of land. They never build on it. They ignore it, undervalue it, assume it's worthless. Then one day, they drive by and see a magnificent house standing tall on that same ground. Lights glowing, windows shining, laughter spilling from the walls. That sting they feel. That's exactly what happens when they see you rebuilding yourself. You were the land they took for granted, and now you've built something they can't enter anymore. At first, they try to downplay it. Oh, they're just pretending. They're faking it. But deep down, they know. Because glowing can't be faked. Peace can't be staged. There's a different kind of energy in someone who's genuinely moved on, someone who no longer needs to prove a thing. And that energy is magnetic. It pulls at them, reminding them of everything they dismissed, everything they overlooked, everything they thought they'd always have access to. And here's the paradox, folks. When you were with them, your glow didn't shine as bright. Why? Because you were dimming yourself to hold them up. You poured your energy into making them feel secure, making them feel chosen, making them feel loved. But once you stop pouring into the wrong place, that energy comes back to you. You hit the gym harder. You focus on your mission. You laugh differently. You sleep deeper. You carry yourself with calm. And they see it. They notice it. And it terrifies them. because nothing haunts the memory like peace. Anger is easy to dismiss. Sadness is easy to ignore. But peace says you've healed. Peace says you've accepted. Peace says you've outgrown. And that's the hardest thing for someone who took you for granted to face, that you no longer need them to be whole. Let me give you another metaphor. Imagine a flame in the palm of your hand. While you hold it close, it burns you, it flickers, it feels unstable. But when you release it into the air, it grows into a fire that lights the whole sky. That's what happens when you stop gripping onto someone who didn't value you. Your glow expands, your energy multiplies, and the very person who underestimated you is now forced to watch from the outside. And don't think they don't notice. They notice everything. They might not comment. They might not like your posts, but they're watching, quietly, silently, comparing their life with yours, feeling the gap widen, because while they thought you'd be stuck, you're moving. While they thought you'd wait, you're rising. And the version of you they see now, that version doesn't look like someone who's coming back. That version looks free, and that's what stings the most. Freedom. They see you laughing with friends, taking trips, leveling up, working on your body, your career, your mind. And every step you take away from the version of you that needed them is another dagger to their ego, because in their mind you weren't supposed to outgrow them. You weren't supposed to glow without them, but you did. Here's the truth, my friends. They don't miss you because of who you were when you chased them. They miss you because of who you became when you stopped. That glow, that peace, that strength, that's what keeps them up at night. Because now they're faced with a reality they never thought they'd see. The one they dismissed is now untouchable. And make no mistake, this glow is not about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong. It's not about shoving success in their face. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about taking all the energy you wasted, trying to be enough for them and pouring it into yourself. That's why Stoicism is so powerful here. You don't glow because you want them to notice. You glow because you no longer care if they do. And ironically, that's exactly why they notice the most. Let's break another lie. They'll tell themselves it doesn't matter. They'll tell themselves you're replaceable. But deep down, they know the truth. They know not everyone glows like that. Not everyone heals like that. Not everyone rises after being taken for granted. And that's what makes you unforgettable. Not your pain, not your chasing, but your transformation. So what happens next? Regret sets in. They look at their own life and feel the weight of stagnation. They compare their quiet emptiness to your steady peace. And they realize something they never admitted before. You weren't the weak one. You weren't the desperate one. You were the rare one. The one who gave without fear, and when it wasn't valued, had the strength to walk away and rebuild. And that realization doesn't leave them quietly. It lingers, it haunts, it whispers every time they see your face, hear your name, or scroll past your glow. And here's where you must stand firm, because the temptation will come. They may reach out, test the waters, send that, "Hey, hope you're good" message. But remember this truth. Your glow was built in their absence. Don't dim it by going back to the darkness that forced you to shine. Affirmation, I glow without them. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your peace is not a performance, it's your reality. And let them wrestle with the regret of realizing too late that they lost the rarest light they'll ever know. Stay with me, because the next truth will expose why silence, more than anything else, is the sharpest mirror they'll ever have to face. Number 6. When you stay silent, it forces them to feel everything. Silence is not empty. It is full of the answers they never wanted to face. My friends, let me tell you something that most people overlook. Silence is louder than words, louder than arguments, louder than begging, louder than explaining, louder than proving. And when you stay silent after they've taken you for granted, it forces them to sit in a space that terrifies them most, the space where they can no longer control the narrative. See, when you're chasing, when you're calling, when you're texting, when you're trying to make them understand your worth, they don't have to face themselves. They can distract, dismiss, and deflect. They can point fingers and say, "You're too emotional, you're too much, you're always around." But when you go silent, when you pull your energy back completely, all of that disappears. Now it's just them and their thoughts. And that, my friends, is the heaviest mirror they will ever stare into. Let's break the lie. Silence isn't weakness. Silence isn't avoidance. Silence isn't running away. Silence is a weapon that doesn't cut through anger, but through reflection. Because when you're no longer giving them your voice, they're forced to hear their own, and most people don't like what their own mind has to say. Imagine this. A person walks into a quiet room after being surrounded by constant noise. At first, the silence feels calm, but then, the longer they sit in it, the louder their own thoughts become. The regrets, the questions, the guilt, the truth. That's what your silence does. At first, they may shrug it off, think you're just giving space. But as the hours turn to days and the days turn to weeks, the quiet grows heavier. They start hearing the echoes of everything they ignored when they had you. They think, why haven't they reached out? Did I push them too far? Are they done this time? Have they found someone else? Were they more valuable than I realized? Those questions don't stop. They multiply. Because silence creates uncertainty, and humans hate uncertainty more than anything else. They'd rather know you're angry. They'd rather know you're broken. They'd even rather fight with you, because anger still means attachment. But silence means distance. Silence means you're no longer tied to them emotionally, and that's what terrifies them. Folks, understand this. Silence is not the absence of communication. It's the presence of power. It flips the dynamic. Before, they were in control. They could test you, push you, ignore you, and you'd still show up. But the moment you stop, the control shifts. They are no longer the evaluator. You are. They are no longer the chooser. You are. And deep down, they know it. That's why silence feels like punishment, even when you're not doing anything but minding your own business. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that suddenly stops reflecting you. No matter how much you wave, smile, or shout, the mirror stays blank. That's what your silence feels like. Before you were their mirror, you reflected their beauty, their worth, their importance, through your constant attention. But when you go quiet, that reflection disappears, and without it, they're left staring at nothing but themselves. For many, that's unbearable. And here's the raw truth. They'll start looking for cracks in your silence. They'll check if you've posted. They'll scroll through your feed. They'll watch your stories in secret. They'll ask mutual friends about you. They'll drop subtle hints like liking an old picture or sending a half-hearted "hope you're good" message just to test the waters. But what they're really doing is searching for reassurance that they still have a place in your life, that they still matter, that you haven't truly let go. But when your silence holds, when you don't break it, that's when the panic sets in. That's when missing you turns into regret. Because now they're not just uncertain, they're powerless. And nothing bruises the ego more than powerlessness, especially when it comes from someone they once believed they could take for granted. And here's the part that cuts deepest for them. Silence doesn't just remind them of what they lost, it makes them realize they can't get it back the same way. They can't just pick up where they left off. They can't waltz back into your life expecting the old dynamic. Because your silence didn't just starve them, it strengthened you. You're not the same person who chased. You're not the same person who overgave. You're someone new, someone calmer, someone stronger, and that scares them. Think of it like this. A child plays with a toy, throws it aside, and assumes it'll always be there. But when they finally go back for it, the toy has been rebuilt into something different, something stronger, shinier, out of reach. They can't play with it anymore. That's the transformation silence creates in you. But my friends, here's where you must hold the line, because the temptation is always there, to break the silence, to explain, to remind them, don't. Your silence is the lesson. Your silence is the boundary. Your silence is the teacher they can't run from. The longer it holds, the clearer the truth becomes. You were never the weak one. You were never the desperate one. You were the rare one, the one who gave freely until you were no longer valued, and then walked away with quiet dignity. And that's why Stoicism is so powerful here. The Stoics remind us sometimes the most powerful reply is no reply at all. Silence is not about punishing them. It's about protecting you. It's about conserving your energy, reclaiming your peace, and forcing them to see the void they created when they undervalued you. And believe me, they see it. Even if they never admit it, they feel it. They feel it when the room gets quiet. They feel it when their phone doesn't buzz. They feel it when no one else shows them the care, the attention, the presence you once gave. And here's the paradox. You're not silent to make them miss you, but it's in that silence that they miss you the most. Because silence doesn't just remind them of what they lost. It forces them to realize they might never find it again. So, my friends, hold your silence. Don't break it for comfort. Don't break it for reassurance. Don't break it because they finally feel what you've been feeling all along. Let them sit in it. Let them spiral. Let them wrestle with themselves. Because silence is the sharpest mirror, and the one reflection they can't escape is the truth. Affirmation: my silence is power. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you no longer waste words where actions, specifically the action of detachment, speak louder. And stay with me, because the next truth will expose something even harsher. When you let them treat you like you're replaceable, they will. And why your silence must also be backed by standards that no one is allowed to cross. Number 7. If you let them treat you like you're replaceable, they will. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. My friends, let me be blunt here. If you allow someone to treat you like you're replaceable, they will. If you show them through your actions that no matter how little they give, you'll still be there, then don't be surprised when they take you for granted. Not because they're evil, not because they never cared, but because that's human nature. We don't value what we believe we can always get. Think about it. Imagine you had unlimited access to something rare, diamonds falling from the sky every morning. Would you treasure them the same way? No. You'd walk past them, let them pile up, maybe even get annoyed by the mess. That's exactly how people treat someone who never sets boundaries, who always forgives, who never withdraws their energy, no matter how poorly they're treated. You stop looking rare to them. You start looking replaceable. Here's the lie people live under. They think loyalty means tolerating anything. They think patience means never walking away. They think being the bigger person means letting others treat them however they want. But loyalty without respect is slavery. Patience without boundaries is self-betrayal. And being the bigger person doesn't mean being a doormat. It means holding yourself to a higher standard. Folks, listen carefully. If you keep proving yourself to someone who doesn't see your worth, you're not showing strength, you're showing desperation. And desperation is the one energy no one respects. When they know they can ignore your needs and you'll still come running, they don't feel inspired to treat you better. They feel empowered to treat you worse. That's the harsh truth. And it doesn't start big. It starts small. They ignore a message and you still double text. They cancel plans and you still reschedule around them. They give you excuses and you still give them effort. Slowly, without even realizing it. You've trained them to believe you'll always be there. And once they believe that, they stop showing up. They stop giving. They stop valuing. Why? Because in their mind, you're not a treasure. You're an option. Now let's break the illusion. Nobody is truly replaceable when they live in their full worth. But when you act like your presence is cheap, people will treat it that way. When you give without receiving, when you forgive without change, when you show up without being met halfway, you lower the price of your value in their eyes. And here's the kicker, they don't even have to consciously mean it. It's subconscious. Human psychology doesn't treasure abundance, it treasures scarcity. Think about the rarest paintings in the world, Mona Lisa, Starry Night. Why are they priceless? Because they can't be duplicated. But if there were 100 Mona Lisas hanging in every hallway, would people still guard it behind glass? Would they line up for hours to see it? No. Value comes from rarity, and your energy, my friends, is no different. So when you keep pouring into someone who doesn't pour back, you're not proving your love, you're proving your lack of standards, and people don't respect what they can control. They don't admire what they can predict. They don't value what they can manipulate. Respect is born in boundaries. Desire is born in scarcity. And love, real love, is born in mutual recognition of value. But here's the beauty. The power is always in your hands. The moment you stop allowing disrespect, the moment you stop overgiving, the moment you step back and say, I know who I am and I won't beg you to see it, that's when everything shifts. They suddenly feel the loss. They suddenly realize the access wasn't free, it was a privilege. And privileges revoked are the harshest teachers of all. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine a garden overflowing with fruit. Everyone passes by, picking freely, taking without asking. No one says thank you, because the supply seems endless. But one day, the gardener builds a fence. Access is limited, the fruit remains rare. Now suddenly people appreciate it, they respect it, they long for it. That's exactly what happens when you raise your standards, when you build fences around your energy, when you stop letting anyone and everyone consume what you've worked hard to grow. And here's the Stoic truth. You don't raise your standards to punish them. You raise them to protect you. You're not taking away your energy out of spite. You're reserving it for people who see its value. Because the moment you truly understand your worth, you realize not everyone deserves access. Not everyone deserves your patience, your kindness, your time. Those are gifts, not entitlements. And yes, they will miss you when you finally hold the line. They will miss the access they once abused. They will miss the little things they dismissed. They will miss the patience they mistook for weakness. They will miss the love they never returned. But here's the key. You can't let their regret drag you back into the same cycle. Because if you go back without change, the pattern repeats. They'll treat you as replaceable again. The silence, the distance, the glow, all of it must be backed by new standards. Otherwise, it's just noise. So, my friends, here's the lesson. You cannot be taken for granted if you refuse to allow it. You cannot be treated as replaceable if you carry yourself as irreplaceable. You cannot be overlooked when you make it clear through your actions that you'd rather walk alone in peace than stay where your value isn't seen. Write this in the comments right now. I am not replaceable. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your energy is rare, your presence is precious, and your silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. And let me leave you with this call to action. If you've ever been taken for granted, stop chasing closure. Stop waiting for their recognition. Stop handing your worth to people who don't know what to do with it. Instead, embody it, live it, walk in it, glow in it, and let the silence teach them the lesson you no longer need to explain. Because here's the final truth. They don't miss you when you beg. They don't miss you when you overgive. They don't miss you when you keep proving yourself. They miss you when you finally decide you are enough on your own. And when you stand in that truth, untouchable, unshaken, and unreplaceable, that's when your power is undeniable. Affirmation: I am not replaceable. Write it, claim it, live it.